All right, so I want to get into something I'm going to call beating the odds. Everything in a career is based upon success or failure. And it's really interesting in the in the insurance industry, there's been a high failure rate for agents coming in from when I started, like over a decade ago, and still there are people who think they could just jump in and have this successful career. But first, I want to define success and failure a little bit. Success doesn't have to be, you own $1 million agency. If you want that, awesome, and you deserve it. But success can also be, to an extent, earning a living. The problem with that is it keeps you stuck. And I'll give you a good example. When I used to interview agents, I'd say, well, so how much money would you like to earn in a year? And they'd say, well, to cover my bills, I need about 50,000 or I need 70,000, whatever it was. And I would say, so you just want to cover your bills? And they would say, well, no. And it means that their sights were a little short and that they were used to just making enough to get by. And I think everyone's goal should be more than enough, because when you're just making enough and something comes up, like I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, the transmission on your car, it sends you into a complete spiral because maybe you don't have that money in the bank and you're not really in a great position. So I'm not sure if people who are in that position feel successful. I know when I was there, I did not. My car got repossessed and I was like, what am I going to do? This is after I came off tour and was a rock star. It was a eye-opening wake-up call. And I vowed I will never let that happen again. So if you're in the position where you are thinking about, hey, this is how much I have to make, add a zero or add 20,000, add a cushion so that you can beat the odds when these simple things like challenges come up, because they shouldn't be this tremendous stressor that then affects every aspect of your life. It should be something that we can, as salespeople, especially with a wide open market and a demand for our products, we should be able to position ourselves to be able to overcome that. So let's go forward. As I said, in an insurance career, there's a really high failure rate. And there's a multitude of reasons for that. It could be that someone came out of no sales knowledge whatsoever and tried to jump on and get into this career because someone said, hey, you know what? You can make a lot of money in insurance. And it's like when I first started selling vacuums with my dad, he said, you can make as much money as you want. And I wasn't for the first few weeks. And I told him that, and he was like, well, do you know what you're doing? And I was like, well, not really, because I wasn't showing up for the meetings to learn about the product, vacuum, how to get in someone's house, learn what you would call sales skills. And so they were too early in the morning for me. It was 7:30. I was a musician wanting to be a rock star, and I was like, I didn't waste time. However, it was a really great lesson to learn at 18 years old, because if you don't know what you're doing, how can you succeed at it, right? So I started going to the meetings, and miraculously, I started to be able to sell more. So a lot of people in insurance had this little misleading conception of buy a dialer, buy leads, get a quoting tool, get a CRM. And they were spending all this money before they made a dime. And then they realized, hey, it wasn't really as easy as they were told. And so there was about an 85 to 90% failure rate since I've gotten into this industry. I'm hoping it's a little better now because we do have demand in open enrollment. But there's other challenges, getting certified, learning your products, keeping abreast of the changes and stuff. So again, you want to beat the odds and position yourself to really be successful. So history speaks loud in that there are a ton of people that have overcome odds. So if you feel like you're struggling or you're not earning the income you truly desire or think you deserve, you can overcome the odds, just like Helen Keller did. If anyone is a baseball fan, there was this guy, Jim Abbott, who was born with missing a hand and wound up becoming a New York Yankees pitcher. And if I recall correctly, he either pitched a shutout or a no-hitter. I think he pitched a no-hitter at one time. But the ultimate example for me is in sales. If anyone has not seen this movie, Door to Door, you want to pick it up, rent it over the weekend. It's about a salesperson, Bill Porter, who sold for Watkins Incorporated. And I actually used their products because they got these great natural products. But he had cerebral palsy. He was born with it. And the story goes that he was turned down from any real sales job because obviously he had this quote unquote handicap. And he became the top salesperson in the company. And last I checked, he's still alive, he's still around. And obviously this movie's made about him. he overcame those odds. And if you watch this movie, you'll probably cry, and you may also think that you've been a crybaby for most of your career, because that's how I felt. I was like, man, I'm complaining about things, and look at what this guy did. And it was super inspiring. So I want you to take this as inspiring in case there's any challenges you might be having in your life, whether it's personal or business. It doesn't matter. You can overcome them. You don't want to be gambling on your career, as in where people try and play the odds and hope and bet. And, it's gambling is set up so that you ultimately lose and Vegas wins type of thing, right? Meaning overall, most people don't win. So you don't want to be gambling on your career. You want to really be positioning yourself to become successful. So let's be realistic here. Everyone, including me, we've all had challenges, struggles, and some failures, right? This is what happens. It's life. A lot of people say, man, life is tough. And I always wonder what they're comparing it to, because I don't know what death is like. I mean, I don't know, right? So yeah, life can be challenging. It's mostly great if you're healthy and you've gotten through this stuff. And that's the point I want to make, is we've all overcome some, if not all, of the major challenges, stresses, and struggles. Especially if you're alive and healthy and breathing today, that's a huge accomplishment. So we can almost position ourselves to overcome anything. So let's get into a couple of those things. What might you be leaving to chance in your career? And I'm going to go over some parts of a plan in a couple of slides, but I want you to think about that. What does it take to beat the odds? You don't want to go on autopilot. You don't want to continue doing things that most people have done, where they work a little bit and they talk to a couple of people, do a presentation, let them go. They may only offer one product instead of adding in ancillary or supplemental benefits. They don't qualify if the people even, if your potential clients, I should say, even want those types of products, which you should ask, because just to go into that a little bit, a lot of people are coming off a group plan when we deal with them, and they've had a multitude of products presented to them, or they might even have, because they have enrollers that do stuff like AFLAC, life insurance policies, like dental, all that stuff. So you should never be hesitant about playing the odds that your client might be receptive to all of those additional products and services that we could offer. So here's what you need to beat the odds: a goal. As I said, a lot of people, when I would interview them, say, yeah, you know what, I want to be able to pay my bills. That's not really a goal. I mean, it is a goal in a sense, like you want to survive, but that's not really something that's going to really be super rewarding, because it keeps you literally at the state of average. And in this industry, man, you don't need to be at a state of average, because we're going to have a booming amount of clients, a crazy amount of leads happening. So create a goal that's actually a little stretched higher than you may have normally put it. The next thing is you need a plan. I'm going to get to that in a couple slides. And you obviously need determination. Any success story you've heard has had these components: a goal, a plan behind the goal, determination to succeed, and motivation. For the most part, people are motivated by one of several things. It's either money and what you can do with money as a tool, meaning you could buy a fancy car, which ties into recognition, meaning you win the trips, you win the Salesperson of the Year award. There's recognition as a motivator. There's also vision and purpose as a motivator. Maybe your purpose is to, help your parents so that they can retire a little more easily, or you want that boat and a house on the beach, whatever it is. You have to figure out what your motivation is to do this and to do it successfully, and commit every day to that, whether it's reading the Bible in the morning, praying in the morning, just reading an inspiration, looking at your newborn child, just sunrise, whatever it is, a great memory, whatever motivates you. Think back to when you were really like hyped about getting a new car and you had a picture of it. Whatever it is that will motivate you, that's what keeps you moving and adds to the determination, so that you can work the plan to achieve the goal. So here is the plan that I'm going to give you, and it's brief, but it's a couple of key points that if you've missed any of them, excellent. I hope this helps out. Number one, are you certified? Because we have open enrollment coming up and certifications coming up for the FFM. I'm assuming you maybe have already been certified if you're doing Medicare sales, but either way, That's one of the things to beat the odds and get it in a timely manner, is getting certified. And then, do you have your plan for your lead sources and networking? And I would add to that, how are you going to work referrals and how much you're going to cross-sell? Meaning, what is your overall plan to work your leads and to acquire leads and get more leads and work your butt off when open enrollment comes around, so you can really live in abundance instead of survival mode, which I think is going to be incredibly rewarding if you haven't achieved that yet. And then what about technology? I had a great meeting last week in Oregon with the in-house agents that we have, and none of them were using web sharing, which I kind of found surprising, because I just took it for granted that everyone uses web sharing. So we actually have now implemented a web sharing aspect to where if you're doing phone sales, it creates the connection of being face-to-face, sort of, in that if they say they need to see information, you go, sure, what would you like to see? And boom, you can pull up a web share and show them without letting that client go. Or you could just show them the policy so that it adds to your credibility, that they see you're on the website of the insurance company or the healthcare.gov site. It's just going to increase the trust and qualify the client better, in that you won't let them go so much to go think it over and send information. So that's just a little tidbit side note. But what about technology with a CRM and an automatic an automatic email system, so you can keep touching clients that maybe weren't quite ready to buy for logical reasons? It's all things like that nature. So just want you to keep thinking about what are these things and how you can position yourself if you are missing any of them. Of course, product knowledge, because things are evolving. Sometimes we get a new product. You want to evaluate that new product, see if it fits in your market demographic-wise. Like we recently got the Health Depot product, which is basically a limited medical plan with indemnity benefits, where it works in conjunction with a major med plan to give you better coverage. I'm not going to get into all of that. We have a video if you haven't seen that one on Health Depot. And of course, recently we came out with our guaranteed issue and the simplified issue short-term medical plans, which are really come in handy these days, because if someone missed open enrollment, still wants to get it, and then when open enrollment comes around, put them on a more permanent plan. So there are all these things having to do with product. It's not only knowing the products, it's knowing how you can fit the product into your sales and your client base. And then, of course, sales proficiency, which is part of that. Product knowledge, sales proficiency. You know, a lot of people come into a business like this and they really don't have sales skills. And I used to always say, getting an insurance license legally allows you to sell. It doesn't mean you actually know how to sell. And there are skills in selling. Hopefully you're getting some of that from these meetings, from the Wednesday meetings I do, things like that. So you really need to figure out, where is it that you might need to work on to really position yourself to sell really successfully.